Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Moneycontrol live stream. You're watching Closing Bell. I'm Santosh Nair.
And I'm Yatin Mota.
Well, a bit of a roller coaster day for the indices. Once again, Nifty and Sensex ending lower, ending a two-day winning streak. However, they managed to recover significantly from the lows of the day. At one point, the Nifty came very close to breaching the psychological 16,800 marks. Across the board, selling seen in most sectors. FMCG was the only sector which managed to hold ground in a bearish session. Otherwise, heavy selling was seen in shares of largely from the IT and PSU banks pack, both sectors falling quite sharply there. The FMCG shares holding ground. The India Volatility Index rose by about 8% to 15.96. Among the prominent gainers of the day today, we had HUL, BPCL, ITC, Grasim and Nestle, while among the prominent losers we had Adani Enterprises, Bajaj Finserv, Hindalco, Bajaj Finance and Wipro. The big concern in the market at this point still very much speculation over the health of the US banking system. Yatin.
Absolutely, and I think weekend we saw some good news, जैसे कि जो टेक ओवर था क्रेडिट स्विस का वो UBS ने किया और काफ़ी सारी लिक्विडिटी जो है हमने ये देखी कि सेंट्रल बैंक्स प्रोवाइड कर रही हैं ग्लोबल लेवल पर. बट आई थिंक ऑल गुड न्यूज़ इज़ बैड न्यूज़. प्रॉब्ली लोगों को लगता है देयर आर मोर कॉकरोचेस इन द रूम. सो यू नेवर नो आफ्टर ऑल ऑफ दीज बैंक इशू गेट सेटल इसके बाद क्या होगा. हाल फिलहाल के लिए तो नज़रिया यही है कि थोड़ी बहुत ग्लोबल मंदी आपको दिखाई पड़ रही है. ग्लोबली हम देखें कोई भी इंडेक्स तो आज एक नेगेटिव बायस के साथ ट्रेड कर रहा है. इनफैक्ट अगर हम गोल्ड को देख लें तो आज सैंटो 60,000 का लेवल रुपी टर्म्स में क्रॉस हो गया और जो फियर है मार्केट का वो आपको दिखाई पड़ रहा है क्योंकि क्रूड नीचे जा रहा है विच इज़ इंडिकेटिंग अ रिसेशनरी काइंड ऑफ एनवायरनमेंट एंड गोल्ड गोइंग अप मीन्स देयर इज मोर फियर इन द मार्केट. तो अभी ये कहना मुश्किल है कि ग्लोबल इक्विटीज़ को एक रिस्पाइट मिलेगा. ऑब्वियसली निफ्टी की बात करें तो 16,950 माफ़ कीजिएगा, ये एक ऐसा लेवल है जहां से हम लोग आज एक बाउंस दिखा पाए हैं. ऑब्वियसली एक प्रोमिनेंट बाउंस मिलना चाहिए मार्केट को क्योंकि एक ओवरसोल्ड टेरिटरी में है, लेकिन हाँ एफआई की सेलिंग थम नहीं रही है और अक्रॉस द बोर्ड आपको हेवी वेट्स में सेलिंग दिखाई पड़ रही है. आज अगर हम रिलायंस की बात करें या HDFC बैंक की बात करें, HDFC लिमिटेड की बात करें तो ये सब वो हेवी वेट्स थे जहां ज़बरदस्त प्रेशर के साथ कामकाज हो रहा था. एडवांस डिक्लाइन रेशियो भी देखें तो ऑलमोस्ट 1:4, 1:3 टाइप आपको NSE पे दिखाई पड़ रहा था. तो क्लियरली मार्केट एक पेन जोन में है और ये पेन से कब बाहर निकलेंगे कहना मुश्किल है क्योंकि ग्लोबल कंडीशंस अब डोमेस्टिक फैक्टर्स को टेक ओवर कर चुका है.
Very well put there, Yatin. Clearly, there is a shift to safe havens at this point in time, and besides that, besides the other asset classes that Yatin mentioned, Bitcoin is also seeing some kind of a renewed interest. A lot of investors, as global investors, not very unlikely that investors in India would do that, but globally, at least, there seems to be a clear shift in favor of Bitcoin at this point in time. And let's also not forget, Bitcoin and other crypto assets had been hammered quite badly. During 2022, some bit of bargain interest coming there, and the theory every now and then that these represent a safe, you really can't trust fiat currency, and these are, although that would seem a little counterintuitive given that interest rates are rising and now real returns are beginning to get positive. Well, that said, let's quickly take a look at the key stocks on our watch list this afternoon, starting with Berger Paints. Now, last year, paint stocks had come under pressure. The trigger point was mainly Grasim saying that it would step up investments in the paint business, and since then you saw heavy selling across the board in almost all paint stocks. But this year so far has been kind to some of the paint stocks, at least. Berger Paints has been one of them. The stock has inched up slightly compared to where it was at the start of the year, but still that's quite a commendable performance in a market that has been under pressure right from the start of 2023. Now, Berger Paints MD Abhijit Roy has said that the company is expecting an improvement in its operating margins to about 16 to 17%. Also, in the current quarter, it expects the gross margins to be in the range of around 37 to 38%. Also, He said that the company is not planning to take any price hike, but at the same time is expecting about 12% to 13% volume growth in the current quarter. He has also mentioned, this was in the previous interview, that the volume growth in Q4 has been quite good, and mainly now demand in the non-urban centers have begun to pick up. Berger Paints expects market share for the end of FY23 to be in excess of 20%.
Absolutely, and I think एक silver lining to Santo यहाँ है कि crude prices are correcting. They are now below that $70 per barrel mark. That also provides some support to paint companies, because the key raw material, which is crude derivatives, the cost moves down there, and also because of the slowdown in Europe, titanium dioxide, which is another raw material for the paint industry, prices have started falling. So clearly 2-3 factors which provide a tailwind to the paint sector. Obviously domestic demand is something one needs to be watchful of. The stock on my radar is Godrej Consumer. Today Goldman Sachs has come out with a buy rating on Godrej Consumer with a target of 1100, which is 1100 rupees per share. और गोदरेज कंज्यूमर की स्पेसिफिकली बात करें तो कंपनी ने काफ़ी सारे इनिशिएटिव्स लिए हैं अपने आप को टर्न अराउंड करने के लिए. ऑब्वियसली फॉरेन मार्केट्स, खास करके इंडोनेशिया, साउथ ईस्ट एशियन कंट्रीज़ में इनका एक्सपोजर है, लेकिन डोमेस्टिक मार्केट में आपको ग्रीन शूट दिखाई दे रहे हैं डिमांड के. इनफैक्ट गोल्डमैन का मानना ये है कि जो इनिशिएटिव्स कंपनी ने लिए हैं उसके कारण थोड़े बहुत अर्निंग्स में प्रेशर आया है, लेकिन अब शायद उसके फ्रूट्स यील्ड होना शुरू हो जाएंगे. तो ये एक स्टॉक कंज्यूमर स्पेस में जो वैल्यूएशन के लिहाज से और टर्न अराउंड के लिहाज से गोल्डमैन सैक्स को पसंद आ रहा है.
Clearly, and it's been a long struggle for Godrej Consumer, much of 2022, as
Correct.
its international plans basically was taking shape, but now finally there seems to be light at the end of the tunnel, and that is what is leading to slightly improved sentiment for the stock. Thermax is the other stock on our watch list. The stock too has had a decent run in 2023 so far. It was under pressure today, a bit down by close to about 2%, but overall for the year so far, it's had a fairly steady run. Now, the company had recently signed a memorandum of understanding with Australia-based FFI. The MOU basically is for development of hydrogen-based projects for industries like steel and fertilizers, which will help them achieve their carbon zero targets. Thermax in an interview today said that there's been slowdown in large cyclical projects, and that now the company's story is mainly about India's need for water and clean energy. Jefferies recently came out with a buy rating on Thermax with a price target of 2,520. According to Jefferies, the company is now positioning itself to be a leader in clean water and energy by offering new product solutions. Jefferies has also said that the China Plus One benefits have begun to trickle in, with boiler orders now coming in from global players, and Jefferies expects a 42% compounded growth in EPS over the next 3 years, and that should drive upside in the stock.
Absolutely, this is one capital goods space stock which is doing well, and Santo, I think this is like a capex theme play. Has done well in the past, and there is some correction which provides an opportunity for buying, is what brokerages are suggesting. The last stock on my radar today is SBI Cards, and Morgan Stanley has been quite bullish on the stock since its initiation. Today they have an overweight call with a target of 925, which means almost a 30% upside from the current market price. Morgan Stanley believes that जो market share है SBI का वो कंपनी रीगेन कर रही है. इसके अलावा कार्ड स्पेंड्स भी आपको बढ़ते हुए दिखाई पड़ रहे हैं. इनफैक्ट जो EMI प्रोडक्ट है ज़्यादातर कार्ड कंपनी का, वहाँ आपको SBI कार्ड्स एक अच्छी स्मार्ट EMI प्रोडक्ट दे रही है, जिसके कारण वहाँ अर्निंग्स में थोड़ा बहुत ट्रैक्शन आता हुआ दिखाई पड़ रहा है. ऑब्वियसली कॉस्ट ऑफ फंड्स जो है वो काफ़ी सारी NBFCs के लिए और फाइनेंशियल इंस्टीट्यूशंस के लिए बढ़ती हुई दिखाई पड़ रही है, क्योंकि इंटरेस्ट रेट्स आर मूविंग अप. दैट इज़ प्रॉब्ली अ स्मॉल रिस्क टू द अर्निंग्स, बट हाँ ओवरऑल बेसिस पे अगर देखें तो ग्रोथ और मार्केट शेयर के प्रोस्पेक्ट्स पे अभी भी मॉर्गन स्टैनली SBI कार्ड्स पे बुलिश है.
The stock did take a fair bit of knock last year, and of late again there seems to be some bit of renewed buying interest, especially at lower levels. Yet in the big risk for SBI cards at this point in time is largely, one is the buy now pay later concept, which is now gaining a lot of traction, especially among youngsters. The second worry at this point is that the yields, because of high interest rates, typically customers tend not to carry forward their outstanding. So that is something, the revolver book as it is called for credit card companies, that typically tends to shrink a little whenever interest rates rise. So these two are the things that you also need to be watchful about in SBI cards.
Absolutely.
And well, with that, it's a wrap on this episode of Closing Bell. Thank you for watching.
जुड़ने के लिए बहुत-बहुत धन्यवाद.
We'll be back with you again at 9 a.m. tomorrow. In the meantime, for all news, views, analysis, stay logged on to moneycontrol.com.